Okay, hello. This is going to be a video that goes over the first section of Lesson 4 of Grammar and Context 2, which is 4.1 to 4.4. Okay? Alright, so here's some of the questions that get covered in this chapter. If you want to pause and take a look at this, you can, but I'll go through these questions as we go along. So let's go ahead and start off with the first part. All right, so one of the questions that I asked you is, what is possession? Well, what possession means is it means ownership, or it can also mean a relationship. So it explains who or what owns something else or is related to something else. So we have this example, the bride's dress is white. So the thing that shows the possession is the apostrophe and the S, and it shows that the dress belongs to the bride. In the second example, we're showing relationship. Do you know Charles's wife? It's showing that Charles, the wife is related to Charles. It's not a big difference, but ownership should be different than possession. Sorry, than relationship. So we wouldn't want to say that Charles owns his wife, but that he is related to her. So there's two ways that we can do possessions that are talked about here. The most common way is with an apostrophe and an S. So we have the bride's dress and the guest's coats. The other way that we can do it, and this is one of the problems that ESL students have, is that especially Spanish speakers, is they overuse the second way. So in the second way, we have the and then of the something. So an example is St. Peter's is the name of the church. And this is done with non-living things, and it's a formal usage for non-living things. So another way that we can say St. Peter's, we can say St. Peter's is the church's name, and that would be more informal, but the formal way would be the name of the church. All right, so these are the different possessive forms that we need to know. So when we have a singular noun, we're just going to add an apostrophe and an S. So we have the bride's dress is white. So we have the bride plus the apostrophe and S. If we have a plural noun that is ending in S, we only add an apostrophe, and we put the apostrophe after the S. So she got married in her parents' house, and you'll see that we have the parent, the apostrophe S after the S, the plural S. When we have an irregular plural, like men or women, we're going to use the same method that we use with a singular noun. So we add an apostrophe plus S. So we have the men's suits are black. And then when we have a name that ends in S, we actually have two options here. I know that there's only one listed here. But one thing we can do is add an apostrophe S, and most people think that this looks really weird because you have two S's next to each other. So do you know Charles's wife? Another way that's also acceptable is to just add an apostrophe after the S. So instead of Charles's, it would be Charles apostrophe. All right, so let's take a look at this. So this is some practice, and I don't have my book in front of me, but I believe these are some of the questions that are from the book. So you can go ahead and do these, or you can just pause and write down what your answer is, and then we can go over the answer. All right, so the first one is the groom's mother is very nice. The groom is the man in the wedding, if you don't know. The bride's flowers are very beautiful. Okay, apostrophe S. The bridesmaids' dresses are blue. So we just have an apostrophe because bridesmaids is plural. They invited many guests to the wedding. They didn't invite the guests' children. So we have a plural. Guests is plural, so we just add an apostrophe at the end. The women's dresses are very elegant. So we have an apostrophe S because we have an irregular plural. Here's an example of with non-living things. What you want to do is you want to write the formal form of this. So again, if you want to go ahead and pause and do this, you can, and then we'll go over the answers. Okay, so the first one would be the name of the bride. This would be the formal way. We could also say the bride's name. The door of the church is open. Again, the formal way, but you could also say the church's door. The bride's grandmother came to the wedding from London. We could say technically the grandmother of the bride, but we wouldn't do that because both of the things in this are non-living. But that is a formal way of saying it. The floor of the church has a red carpet, or you could say the church's floor. The windows of the church are very beautiful. In this case, it's formal. You could also say the church's windows. And then the bride's mother is crying. And we do this because both of these things are living. All right, so now we need to talk about what is a pronoun. We're going to introduce two different kinds of pronouns here. But there's more than two that we can talk about. There's subject pronouns, object pronoun, possessive pronouns, reflexive pronouns. What we mean by a pronoun is a pronoun basically is a word that replaces a noun. So if I'm talking about I, it's replacing Justin. If you talk about he, it's replacing some man, she, some woman, they, some people, we, Justin, and some people, and you, meaning either singularly or plural. But we have all of these different forms. The first thing that we want to talk about actually is we want to talk about the difference between a possessive adjective and a possessive pronoun. Now, one of the questions that I asked you is what is the difference between a possessive adjective and a possessive pronoun? Well, the difference between the two of them is that a possessive adjective has to come before a noun. So all adjectives need to be connected to nouns. So if we look at these ones, the possessive adjectives are my, your, his, her, its, our, and their. But whenever we have a possessive adjective, we need a noun that follows it. So we say her dress is blue instead of her is blue. Their wedding was big instead of their was big. So these possessive adjectives have to come before nouns. But possessive pronouns are different. Remember we said just on the last slide that a pronoun replaces a noun. So possessive pronouns do not come in before nouns. They can be the subject or they can be the object of a sentence, meaning they can go before or after the verb. So if we look at the example, it says, mine is blue. We don't say mine dress is blue. We say ours was small, not ours wedding was small. Okay, so the difference between the two of them is that the possessive adjectives come before nouns and the possessive pronouns do not come before nouns. So let's look at these examples. And again, you can pause this and write down what your answers are, or you can just continue on and I'll go through the answers. So the first one would be, where is my hat? So my is the possessive adjective, and then hat is the noun that follows it. The next one is this pencil hers. Okay, so hers is the possessive pronoun, and you can see there's no noun after it. Our cat is thin. That's the possessive adjective, and it's in front of the noun cat. That eraser is mine. Right? This is a possessive pronoun. There's no noun after it. What is your sister's name? So your is a possessive adjective. It's in front of sister's name, which is the noun. Name is the noun. The books are theirs. Theirs is a possessive pronoun. you'll see there's no noun after it. My father is 45 years old. My is a possessive adjective, and then it's followed by father, the noun. Is that car theirs? Theirs is a possessive pronoun. There's no noun after it. Okay? So then the last subject that we want to talk about is the WH word. Now the question that I ask you is, what WH word do we use, or what question word do we use to ask about possession? So if we want to know the owner of something, we use the word whose. Now whose is different from who or what or where, in that whose it needs to be followed by a well, no, that's not necessarily true. Whose is often followed by a noun. So in these examples, we're saying whose dress did the bride borrow? So we have whose and then the noun dress. But I could also say whose did the bride borrow if we know what if both I and the speaker know that I'm talking about a dress. So whose flowers are those? Again, I could say also whose are those? Whose last name will the bride use? Okay, so in all of these cases, the whose is used to ask questions. And remember, we have the same format that we always have. We have question word, helping verb, subject, then if we have a negative, and then base form of the verb and the complement. You see, it's always the same, always the same. So for these ones, what we want to do is we want to turn these into questions. These are the answers, and we want to turn them into questions. So again, you can pause it and write them down, or you can just follow along with me. So that's my father's car. So the question would be, whose car is that? So we remove the father's, the possessive, and we replace it with whose. Those are the newlyweds' gifts. Whose gifts are those? She's wearing her sister's necklace. Whose necklace is she wearing? I'm wearing my friend's suit. Whose suit are you wearing? I followed my parents' advice. Whose advice do you follow? The bride borrowed her sister's dress. Whose dress did the bride borrow? Okay? So write down any questions that you have. We can go over those in class. We'll do some of the activities in the book to make sure that you understand. All right, take care. Bye.